Stocks on Wall Street start the new week on a strong note as key indices close at record highs on hopes of a potential trade deal between the US and China. Nvidia and other semiconductor stocks aid the rally. Asian markets, though, failed to pick up on Wall Street's cues as stocks trade largely lower, with investors keeping an eye out on the meeting between the US and Japanese leaders. The GIFT Nifty, though, is indicating a positive start for our own markets. Oil prices settle marginally lower as the OPEC plans to increase oil output amid renewed US sanctions on Russia. Gold prices, on the other hand, have slipped below the mark of $4,000 as US-China trade progresses, and that has cooled demand for safe haven assets. US President Donald Trump arrives in Japan on the second stop of a diplomatic tour. He meets the country's new Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi as a trade deal and defense spending tests the alliance between the two nations. And after the Bihar elections, the Election Commission announces a pan-India special intensive revision of electoral rolls. 12 states and union territories, including Tamil Nadu, West Bengal and Kerala, will be a part of Phase 2 of the drive. Good morning. You're watching Power Breakfast here on CNBC TV 18 in the Mumbai News Centre. I am Hormuz Fatakia. It's the monthly expiry session of the NSE contracts. It's an earnings heavy day. Lots of global cues to track as well. We'll bring you all of that in the next 30 minutes. But first, start off with how the Asian markets are trading. And unlike yesterday's Wall Street session, the same can't be said for the Asian indices today. It's a bit of a red screen that you're seeing, barring the Taiwanese index, which is just above the flat line. Most of the other indices are trading with losses. The Hang Seng down 0.25%, but the Nikkei, after crossing 50,000 yesterday, seeing some profit booking, 0.4% lower. The Kospi also witnessing some profit booking today, 1.5% down on the South Korean benchmark. And the Shanghai Composite too is trading with gains or with losses of just around about 0.25%. So most of the Asian indices are trading lower this morning, failing to pick up on how Wall Street ended overnight. We'll get to that in just a bit, but pull up the GIFT Nifty. That will give you an idea of how our own markets are likely to start off. Well, a 42-point uptick. So if that goes as per plan, we would most likely open above the mark of 26,000 at the start of the monthly expiry trading session. But to set you up for today's trade, we have our research team here with the trade setup, the stocks that you need to keep an eye out for, and the setup on the FNO side of things as well. Firstly, Vinny joins in to get all the market cues that you need to watch out for. Vinny, good morning. What is on your radar this morning?
Hi, good morning, Horma. So firstly, just let me take you all through what happened in the US market. Indications that are coming in positive start as of now. Dow Jones, S&P 500, Nasdaq, all of them managed to, close at those record high levels. Hopes are of that US-China trade deal that will come in through the week, plus a lot more trade deals as well, as President Trump is meeting, his Japanese counterpart as well, the South Korean counterpart through the week. So that'll be important to watch out for. Also, Donald Trump did make a comment saying that, he feels good about the deal with China. So all hopes are going to be on that one. And obviously, when you're seeing in terms of the domestic flows that have come in, FII flows, they've actually been a seller in yesterday's trading session. 55 crores of sell coming in from FIIs, while DIIs have continued to be buyers for 2,400 crores approximately. Now, important cues that we're keeping an eye out on, the two-day FOMC meet that starts today. So 2 days, we'll watch out for that. IIP data on the domestic front, keep an eye out on that. We have AB Capital block deal that will be taking place today. So individual stock move that we could see coming in here. And a lot of earnings today. We have Adani Green Energy, Adani Total Gas. Then we have Happiest Minds, Nugent Software, GSPL, Mahindra and Mahindra Financial Services, TVS Motors, among some of the important ones that we're keeping an eye out on. Do not forget, in terms of yesterday's trading session, Nifty intraday did cross the 26,000 mark. So it will be important to see in today's day, will we continue that momentum? Also, most of these frontline indices were seeing gains. Broader end of the market also did see gains, but the breadth of the market, that was very neutral. Nifty implied open indicating a 42-point uptick like you mentioned. Keep an eye out on that one.
Indeed. Vinny, thank you for that update. Over to Gaurav now, who will list out the stocks that you need to keep an eye out for today. Gaurav, good morning. What's on your list?
Well, let's talk about ISCL. A good set of number because net profit that came in at around 7,610. It was higher than our expectation, and margins those were also at around 8.2% higher than what we had estimated at 7.4%. Sona BLW again good set of number what we saw here because net profit that came in at around 173 crores, which was higher than our estimates, and at the same time margins also were higher than our own estimates. Apart from that, JK Tires, if you look at the results, net profit that increased almost by 64% on a year-on-year basis. Now it stands at around 221 crores. PNB Housing Finance, good set of number is what we saw. NIM compression was something which is a hiccup, but at the same time, net profit that increased almost by 33% on a year-on-year basis. Canara Robeco, AMC, the recently listed stock, if you look at the result here, now profit that has declined almost by 3% on a year-on-year basis, so stable quarter is what we can call it. Indus Tower, when we look at net profit, that declined almost by 17%, but what remained positive is the EBITDA margin. We have seen expansion sequentially, so that is something key positive here. Apart from that, when we talk about Mahindra Logistics, there we saw company reporting net losses once again on a year-on-year basis at around 10.4 crores. And lastly, let's also focus on Bata because we saw net profit declining almost by 73% on a year-on-year basis. Apart from that, RVNL, now this company has recently won an order worth 165 crores. Dilip Buildcon, this company was declared as L1 for an order worth 879 crores. And lastly, as Vinny mentioned earlier, AB Capital will be on our radar because the stock price is going to happen, the deal is going to happen at around 304.55 rupees per share as indicated. So definitely watching out on all these stocks in a trade today.
Gaurav, thank you for all of those stocks that you need to keep an eye out for. These are just earnings reactions, and there's a whole host of earnings coming out later in the day as well. Lastly, Sudarshan joins in with cues from the F&O space on today's monthly expiry session for the NSE contract. Sudarshan, good morning.
Good morning, Harma. So historically, October has always been the month which has seen a big move. So this time also we have seen Nifty moving almost 5% higher in this series. But for today, two contrasting cues that we are getting. FIs have turned sellers again, and despite being the long exposure remaining around 25 to 26%. But the options data is indicating a range for Nifty that is likely to be in the range of 26,000 to 26,300. So we have to see exactly do FIs or our options data, whichever turns out correct, that we'll get to know in the near term. But as far as today is concerned, GIFT Nifty is indicating a start in the green for our market. In all probability, Nifty will open about 26,000. Yesterday on the flows front, FIs have sold almost 56 crore, while DIs have bought more than rupees 2,400 crore in the index futures. Two FIs have sold more than rupees 240 crore. FIs long exposure remains around 26%. They have added long positions, but the worst part is they have also added short positions of more than 5,300 contracts. As I told you in the options data, 25,900 put and 26,000 put have seen huge increase in the open interest, but at the same time, premium has seen a sharp fall. On the call side, 26,500 call was very active. So support for Nifty remains around 25,720, resistance 26,100. Two stocks remain in the band. Those are SAIL and Saman Capital. Keep an eye on two stocks, Indian Bank and Exide. Both these stocks are seeing fresh longs.
Indeed, keep an eye out on both of these names, Saman Capital and SAIL, remaining in the F&O ban. Sudarshan, thank you for that update. Now, the government has announced that 6 companies have received approvals under the government's electronics components manufacturing scheme. Now, the investment that has been approved for the company stands at over 5,530 crore rupees. Now, Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav has stated that with these approvals, India will save close to 20,000 crore rupees on its import bill. Listen into what he had to say.
It's about 20,000 crore rupees import bill will be saved by these plants. But then there are many more plants which are in the pipeline. As you are aware, 249 applications are there, and we are working day and night to complete the entire process at the earliest possible time.
Let's also now listen into what the management of Syrma SGS had to say on this scheme and their demand outlook going forward.
We have filed 4 applications. The first application is for multi-layer PCBs. This would be a plant with a capacity of 2.5 million multi-layer PCBs at full capacity with a targeted investment of about 765 crores. It is coming up in Andhra Pradesh. We expect to start the construction somewhere next month, and by about December 26, we expect the trial productions to begin. The architects have been finalized, the contractors are being finalized, and we were waiting for this approval And I think we would be there by December 26 with the trial production. And I think this is one of the most significant steps of the government to bring India onto the component manufacturing map. Currently, we are only doing assembly of electronic products. And with the PCB and other components which are being approved, the polyester films and other things, I think in coming years, India will become a hub of component manufacturing. I think this is a very, very commendable step that you move up the value chain and from assembly to components to materials, and as the minister was saying, to the machinery and design. I think this is a long journey. We have just taken the first few baby steps of electronic assembly and now into the components.
I just want to get a sense of these product categories that you've entered. You're clearly committed to that. You've announced a big plant as well in Andhra Pradesh. What picture can you tell us in terms of the demand outlook, number one, and number two, competition that you may continue to face as far as imports are concerned?
See, competition would be there, but currently India imports about 90% of its PCB demand. At current levels, the PCB demand is approximately $5 billion, which translates into 45,000 crores. We import about 40,000 and make 5,000. Now, PCBs typically have a turnover ratio of 1 to 1.3x of the capex. So if the three companies which have been approved today have a cumulative capex of about 3,000 crores, what we would be supplying is 4,000 crores, and that's what the minister said. So I think the demand will be there, the global demand will be there, but we have to be working very efficiently, quality, scale, to meet the global demand. And I have no doubts in my mind, we have been exporting for the last 30 years to Europe and America, electronic products. And our exports are approximately, last year they were 860 crores. And I think our company is well poised to enter the component export market in times to come.
In fact, Ashmit also spoke to the management of Keynes Technologies on this scheme. Listen to what they had to say.
Manufacturing is concerned, our land we have acquired, our building has come up already. We are almost in the completion stage. Whereas machinery we have ordered, it is in the pipeline. So considering all these things to meet the timeline what ministry is expecting, we will be there well within the timeline.
Take a short break here on Power Breakfast. On the other side, all the global updates. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It was a very strong session on Monday for the Wall Street indices, all of them ending at a record high. The Dow Jones gaining nearly 350 points. The S&P 500 is now very close to that 6,900 mark now. And the Nasdaq also saw gains of close to 2%. CNBC's Kate Rogers gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
U.S. markets were up across the major averages in Monday's trade, all hitting new record highs after the U.S. and China signaled progress on trade talks over the weekend. The Dow gained 337, the S&P 500 up 83, the tech-heavy Nasdaq added 433. Amazon's planning on cutting as many as 30,000 corporate jobs starting Tuesday. That's according to Reuters, which reports the company is looking to reduce its workforce after overhiring during the peak of the pandemic. Amazon employs more than 1.5 million people, but these cuts would amount to about 10% of the corporate workforce, the largest layoff since about 27,000 jobs were eliminated starting in late 2022. Shares of Qualcomm surged more than 11% on Monday after announcing it'll produce new AI chips. The move's putting Qualcomm in direct competition with chip-making giant NVIDIA. In the past, Qualcomm has focused mostly on semiconductors for mobile devices, but it's trying to break into the exploding market for AI software and services. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back to you in Mumbai.
Kate Rogers, thank you for that update. Now, the U.S. Federal Reserve's two-day policy meet begins today. The investors are widely anticipating a quarter-point cut in interest rates this time around on the back of signs of a slowdown in the job market and easing domestic prices. Economists are also expecting the Fed to usher in a third cut in its December meeting as well. Now, let's listen in to what former Fed official Loretta Mester had to say on this.
The CPI report for September is not going to dissuade the Fed from cutting 25 basis point at the meeting. But, it really isn't a strong case. You do have employment weakening and risk to the downside on that part of the mandate. And you have the government shutdown effect on federal workers being a new factor for this quarter. So I think the Fed will take another insurance cut, but inflation risks are still to the upside. And I think we shouldn't lose sight of that. And the Fed shouldn't lose sight of that part of the mandate. It's really important for them to keep both of those, employment and inflation, in mind, because 3%, is still well above 2%, the goal. They're going to have to keep policy a bit restrictive if they want to get back to 2%, which I know they're aiming for.
Meanwhile, Citi Wealth's Kate Moore is of the view that big earnings reports from this week are going to be of higher importance to the market than the U.S. Fed's interest rate decision. Listen in.
One of the key things that we've anchored on has been that, most of the return this year has been driven by earnings. And this week, because of the big tech names, the mega caps that everyone has really anchored in their portfolios, are reporting, I think it's going to be really, really important for sentiment, perhaps as important for sentiment or even more than the policy decision from the Fed, where, of course, the market's pricing in close to 100% probability of a 25 basis point cut. I do think that we need to hear consistently from the market leaders, as well as from companies leading their sectors and industries across the board, that they're getting benefits from the AI and technology investment they've made throughout the course of 2025, and they have great hope and expectation for what that will be into 2026, and may cite productivity gains or enhancements that will lead to better earnings and stronger margins over quarters ahead.
Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, all of these mega tech companies reporting earnings over the next 2 days. Keep an eye out on all of them. Take a short break. Cues from the commodities market on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Manisha Gupta now joins in with all the updates from the commodity space. Manisha, good morning. Some profit booking continuing in gold, but prices are back above $4,000.
Oh, yes, that is the case. But I want to start with crude oil prices because, after those very strong gains in the previous week and yesterday as well, crude oil prices also have seen a decline as OPEC says that it may be increasing production. This is to tackle any sanction on Russia that may impact supply disruption, really. So we're looking at crude prices coming off as well. And as you mentioned, well, yes, gold and silver is now trading at a 3-week lows. Gold fell 3% overnight. Silver is down 3.5% as well. So we seem to be breaking those important psychological support levels right here. But then it is all about U.S. and China closer to major trade agreement and the risk appetite leading money back into equities rather than gold and silver. So there is some profit taking that the markets believe can just about continue. That actually is quite positive for the Indian markets because the festival demand has been seen strong and now we are getting into the wedding season, whereas well the markets believe that investment and jewelry, both of that demand in India could continue stronger.
Indeed. We'll keep an eye out on that. Manisha, thank you for that update. Now, the formal process to extend Melli Mistri's term as a trustee at the Tata Trusts is still in progress as per sources. Now, Mistri's current term ends today. Now, sources are telling CNBC TV 18 that the Tata Trusts initiated a circular resolution seeking a unanimous approval from all trustees to reappoint him for another term last week. Now, while some trustees have sent in their replies, others are yet to send in their views. Now, after Bihar, the Election Commission has announced a pan-India special intensive revision of electoral rolls. Sandhya is now joining in with more on this. Now, Sandhya, did the Election Commission field questions from the media on a number of issues? Take us through the top 5 highlights from that press conference.
So the Election Commission today announced phase 2 of the nationwide special intensive revision, which will cover 12 states and union territories. Here are 5 key questions and answers from Chief Election Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar's press conference. The first question was, why Tamil Nadu and West Bengal, where elections are due in 2026, are part of phase 2 but not Assam? Remember, the northeastern state is scheduled to go to polls next year as well. C.C. Kumar answered that the Indian Citizenship Act has a separate provision for Assam, and the checking of the citizenship program being carried out under the supervision of the Supreme Court in Assam is almost complete. Hence, the nationwide SIR order of 24th June does not apply to Assam. He said a separate revision exercise will take place there. The second question was whether the EC will prepare a list of mentioning the number of foreigners whose names were wrongfully included in the voter list. The CEC didn't say anything about this, but mentioned that during the first enumeration, the EC will cross-check where the voter or their relatives were in 2002, 2003, 2004. In case of a mismatch or missing information, notices will be issued and those individuals will be asked to furnish documents and explain their whereabouts in 2003. The third question was that while the EC says there were no appeals in Bihar SIR, the opposition parties have opposed SIR in Bihar. So was it limited to political statements? CEC Gyanesh Kumar responded and said that the EC does not comment on political statements. He clarified that the Commission does not believe political parties opposed SIR in Bihar. The district presidents of all parties actively participated in the process and statewide representatives welcomed it during EC meetings. The fourth key question was why SIR has been announced in Kerala despite upcoming local body elections. Kumar noted that local body elections in Kerala have not yet been notified, making it appropriate for SIR to be conducted at this stage. On TMC's claim that SIR will not be allowed in West Bengal, CEC Gyanesh Kumar reiterated that every constitutional body must fulfill its duties as mandated by the Constitution. He added that maintaining law and order is the state government's constitutional duty and expressed confidence that states will continue to do so.
Sandhya, thank you for that update. All eyes, of course, on that all-important Bihar election. With that, we take your leave on this edition of Power Breakfast. Bazaar Morning Call on the other side to set you up for the day's trade. From me and the team, thank you so much for watching.